pretty weak. I don't know if he's gonna let us on. Let's see. You know, it says we're not on, but I guarantee we are.
Jared doesn't beat us.
There you go. All right, so we should be coming up on that. Should be coming up on that. Let's record this bad boy. There we go. Record to the clouds. All right, it looks like we're going. It looks like it's Wednesday, so this must be Whiskey Wednesday. Eddie Varsalona is here with us tonight, everybody. I know you've heard the stories, you've read about the myth, but the man, the myth, the legend is here with us tonight. We're going to be, of course, doing Joseph Magnus tasting tonight. And okay, so what's your official title?
I wear a lot of hats.
Well, you have the same barber as me, so I can understand why you wear a lot of hats, but that's beside the point.
So my official title is National Corporate Brand Educator. So
Okay.
I was in DC last week. I'm here with you wonderful folks in the Boston area this week.
Well, the night's young, sir.
I'll be-
The wonderful might be a strong word.
yeah, so
So.
I run around preaching the good word.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Listen, anybody that's going to preach about whiskey is okay in our book. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about, give us a little bit of background of Joseph Magnus. But before we start, now you can ask the question.
Has anyone in the audience, either here or in Zuckerland, have you ever had Joseph Magnus before? Raise your hands. Wonderful.
Get some.
So never had Joseph Magnus before, so I get it. All right, great, yeah.
Okay, get the paddle, John.
So, Joseph Magnus, if there's one thing we love in this world of whiskey today is authenticity, right? Like, what do we want? We want great juice. We want a beautiful package. We want a reasonable price for what we get in those two things. But I would say we want authenticity. We want to know that this isn't just a brand puffed out of thin air.
Right.
And Joseph Magnus was actually a famous distiller in the 1800s. He started his distillery in 1892. Extremely hardworking man. Was raised in the Atlanta area and found his way to Cincinnati, where he started his business. And you can't make this up. For somebody who sells this product, this is a wonderful thing, right? I mean, his great grandson found an heirloom bottle that was passed down through the family for over 100 years of Mary Hill Club whiskey. And they had always told stories about the famous great grandfather distiller. And he inherits this bottle. Instead of opening it up with his buddies and drinking it, he had the presence of mind in 2007. Really, when bourbon, if you think about it, was just starting to really make its moves a bit.
I was there.
2007, yeah. I was there too.
I was there.
And so here he is, 2007, and instead of drinking the whiskey or sitting on it, he assembled a dream team of people to reverse engineer what he had.
Okay.
And recreate the legacy, start the legacy of his great grandfather with this amazing juice. And even more spectacular with the fact that he actually had a bottle of the whiskey, was that it was preserved extremely well. So it hadn't sat in an attic somewhere for 100 years and cooked. It was well preserved. And so Nancy Fraley, she is the master blender at Magnus. This woman is incredibly famous in the world of blending cognacs and whiskeys. When they first tapped into that bottle, that was the thing that they were so impressed with, was the fact that it was so well preserved, and it was delightful. The whiskey was absolutely spectacular. And so they went about recreating Joseph Magnus. Now, Joseph Magnus, he had several products. It wasn't just the Murray Hill Club. He had bourbons, ryes. He had gin. And so he had over 20 products that he was very, very well established in the distilling world. And he lost his distillery like everyone else to prohibition.
Mhm.
And so there goes you know.
Because the family fortune.
Yeah, and here we are today, right?
Right.
And so but the good news is they have a tremendous amount of documents. And they had that unopened bottle. There was actually a bottle that was found on the side of the road, a road crew in Pensacola, Florida. They were digging up a road and repaving a road. And a bourbon drinker, this was back just a few years ago, found a bottle and loved Magnus.
Florida man.
And yeah, Florida man. He found this bottle and called the distillery like, hey, I'm digging up a road and I found an old Magnus bottle. So they have the crest on the back of the bottle is the crest that he used, Joseph himself. So very special product for a very special time with the renaissance of bourbon and rye and American whiskey. So
That's really sort of cool.
and here we are today.
So there's a little bit of a
Thriving
pedigree
brand.
behind it, and then bringing it into modern times, and sort of figuring out how to replicate that. So where did they start distilling it themselves, or what did they do? How did they go about
So
starting
they
it?
partnered with MGP.
Okay.
And being that Magnus himself was in Cincinnati, Ohio, it's kind of neat that you know, the distillery is right there in that southern Indiana. You know, it wasn't a Kentucky product, and so it's kind of neat that it's coming out of Indiana. And with the history there, I mean, if you think about it, MGP, that facility's been there since 1857.
Mhm.
And so so wonderful juice, very well blended and cared for. And
So they started, what they basically did then is went through the MGP product line, what they distill, because they distill a lot of
They do.
mash bills.
yeah,
And then they
Yep.
started taking those and blending them together to come up with the flavor profile that was similar
you know,
to the unopened bottle.
yeah, fortunately, they started this in 2015. So MGP had aged stocks that you could buy.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely.
And MGP, you know, they have that skill set to really help you, you know, all right, you're gonna need some of this, you're gonna need some of that. And so, yeah, that's exactly what they did. And then it's also, you know, if you think about what it takes, all the different decisions that have to make to come up with that bottle that's in front of you. And that's where Nancy Fraley really comes in.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So
Yeah.
you sort of started playing with the mash bills to get it to
That's
where.
right. And then
different barrel
the
blends.
ages as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, here in the US, we relish the master distiller so much, don't we? But in Europe, if you think about old world whiskey, they really do relish the master blender.
That's the art of the blend.
It's the art of the blend.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so that's really what this comes down to. Now Magnus was impeccable with this product. When you look at all the historical advertisements and stuff like that, he always spoke to the age, the quality, the smoothness of the whiskey, and he was a finisher. So he finished in cognac barrels, whatever barrels he could get his hands on in Cincinnati. And so which back then everything was sold by the barrel. So those barrels for finishing were around.
Right.
You know, it's not like they were often shipping bottles across the ocean. Oftentimes things came in a barrel.
Now, so did he have a distillery, or was he like?
He did,
Yeah.
you know, he had it, he wasn't a negotiant of any kind.
Yeah, because a lot of times this is how stuff happened, is you'd have like what we call it now a rectifier.
That's right.
You'd have other people, we call it, you know, they would put stuff together from different supplies.
Yeah,
Put stuff together too. That happened. People think that's always a new thing. It's like even just getting MGP. Everybody thinks that's a new thing. It's not.
yeah.
It's been going on since you know, since distilling has been going on.
Distilleries always have extra capacity, right?
Yeah.
And so if somebody comes up and says, hey, will you run your still an extra shift on Tuesday? I'll buy all of it.
Right.
They're not
I'm gonna run my
turn that
shift
down.
on Tuesday and you're gonna buy all of it.
Yeah.
All right, so before they get a little too restless, because they sees them itching out there, and we don't want them to drink the entire thing before we start. What is the, what do we got in front of us?
You know, so before we get into the whiskey, I want to talk with you all about flavor. Just a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah. And you'll notice in front of you have a jelly bean, and there's a reason for that. And I like to do this jelly
I'll move over
bean test before a tasting. It's been my experience that it helps people slow down and talk about flavor a little bit. People, they get in these tastings, they get excited. And if you think about, for those of us that drink beer, a pint of beer is 16.9 ounces. And if you think about it logically, it takes, if you sip beer at a half ounce a sip, it's at least 32 sips to a pint of beer, right? An imperial pint, 16.9 ounces. This is an ounce of whiskey, an ounce of
Well, that's a
whiskey.
quarter of ounce because everybody's gonna drive home tonight.
But an ounce of whiskey should logically take you, let's call it 10 sips, 12, 15 sips. So a quarter of an ounce should take you 4 or 5 sips to get through a quarter of an ounce. And I would encourage.
How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop?
So
3.
first of all, I would encourage you to save a little bit of each one so that you can refer back.
You heard it, right?
You told them.
Save a little bit of each one. Yeah, no, they
But
never
let's-
do.
Let's talk about what impacts flavor. So I want everybody to pinch their nose so you talk funny. And then we're gonna take our jelly bean that should be in front of you, and if you don't have one, let us know. And chew it a few times. And tell me what you taste. What can you taste when you chew your jelly bean? Now let go of your nose. And what do you taste?
Everything.
Everything. When you let go of your nose,
Right.
now you can taste what the jelly bean is. Right? And that shows you how impactful that the sense of smell is to what we're about to do as we slow things down. That also shows you, you give a jelly bean to a kid, and he's gonna chew it twice and swallow it and grab a handful more and throw them all in his or her mouth.
Called Tutti Frutti.
And so, but by making you chew it 3 or 4 times before you open your nose, lets it coat your entire palate. So when you taste your whiskey today, small sip, let it sit on your palate before you swallow it 3 or 4 seconds, and move that whiskey around your palate. You know, there are several things that impact flavor. If you have a cold, for some people who they taste a whiskey and they're like, I really don't like this whiskey, but this whiskey's hot to me. They don't realize on that particular day, they had nuclear wings, 2 hours before they came in, and their tongue has a.
If they don't realize they had nuclear wings 2 hours before they get there, they got other problems.
But my point is this,
Yes, I know.
things affect flavor, like the spices you had that day. If you're taking certain medications, your age, at the age, I hate to say it for myself, at the age of 50, your ability to taste starts to plummet. And especially in the category of sweetness. So by the time you hit 50, what would take a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old 1 teaspoon of sugar in their coffee would take you 2. By the time you're 70, it takes you 3 teaspoons of sugar to equal that 1 teaspoon that a 20 or 30-year-old. And what is when you look at the flavor wheel, the thing that most people hone in on first are the sweet aromatics around their American whiskey. And so take all these things in mind and kind of slow that down. But so the first thing that we're going to do is whiskey number 1. That's Joseph Magnus straight bourbon.
Okay. And one of the things that we always do here is we never trust our first sips.
That's right.
Never trust your first
I'm
sip.
right
Always
there
trust
with
your second.
Take your time.
Yep.
Take your time with the nosing of the whiskey, just like that jelly bean alluded to. And definitely grab a sip of water and rinse that jelly bean out of your mouth.
Lime jelly bean. That's what it tastes like. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry. I had a little bit left over the lime jelly bean. Sorry.
So, I mean, right on the nose, right? A little bit of that praline, just that wonderful sweetness that you would get. A little bit of dried apricot, showing some of that cognac cask or the Oloroso sherry.
Yeah. So what is he doing with what are you guys doing with this this bourbon here?
So this is depending on the batch, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason why there's not an age statement on this. It's a moving target. Again, that's that relishing the blender. So anywhere between 6, 8, and 12-year-old bourbons. That MGP 21 rye, so 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 malted barley. That wonderful high rye mash. And then it separately is aged in Pedro Jimenez, which is extremely sweet, and a ton of dried fruit, those dried prunes, raisins, dates.
Yeah.
Oloroso sherry, those violets in that, to me, Oloroso
Get
sherry
that
gives
dryness too.
wonderful tea, kind of like that tea tannin. And then cognac cask out of the limousine.
Gives it some of that, it's almost, you get some of that wine grape sort of flavor, but you get even on that too, you also get, a stronger influence from the wood
Yeah,
on that too.
and again, you know, when you think about marrying flavors, right? And trying to give that depth that you're looking for, thought went into doing this. And the attack on the palate isn't intrusive in any way. It's absolutely delightful.
It's 50% alcohol for those of you guys, keeping score at home. All right. So what do you guys think? Like, yes, good. 12 cases, sir. I'll knock you down right now. But really, no, there's a lot of different flavors going on in this. It's well married together.
Yeah.
It has a really nice balance to it, which I appreciate, because there's no real high and low points. It really sort of mellows all together.
You know, one of my favorite things to do with whiskey is to let it sit on my palate those 4 or 5 seconds and really take it around, you know, let the whiskey roll around my palate for a bit. And you know,
Give it a spin on the Ferris wheel, as they say.
and yeah, and zero bite or burn. You know, the finish is nice and long, just lingers in the back of the throat in a warming way.
Stokes the chimney, but doesn't stokes the fire, but doesn't choke the chimney. You don't get a lot of back heat on it too, which is nice.
You know, in a day and age where super high proof whiskeys have become all the rage. I personally think that like 95 up to 107, 110 is that perfect proof structure. This whiskey at 100 proof is absolutely delightful, and it's still there. I mean, even with a few taps of water, like I often like, or a nice big ice ball, this whiskey stands very well. And the whiskey goes through wonderful changes as water approaches this whiskey.
We always talk about cask strength whiskey, thinking of it as whiskey concentrate. I mean, most of my whiskey, even if it's cask strength, I add enough water that I'm drinking most things between 100 and 110.
Yeah.
So you got 100 proof whiskey, which is plenty of you got plenty of alcohol going on there anyways. That's really nice.
Here's the way I like to look at cask strength whiskey. And in my 30 years of doing this, I like to think of cask strength whiskey as your opportunity to go to that distillery and thieve some out of the barrel. You know, so I think that distilleries, they send it to you at cask strength. When you buy it at cask strength, they realize not everybody can make it to the distillery and do that. And so then you can water it to where it really is palatable for you.
Right.
Which is a great way to buy your whiskey. But for me, if I'm getting something over 115 proof, I'm definitely hitting it. I'll analyze it neat first and then tap it with some water.
Well, in this case, we're sort of trying it at 50% or 100 proof, 50% ABV or 100 proof. This is where the distillery is telling me that they've already done this exercise, and this is sort of where they are. And I think you're getting a lot more, not pushback, but acceptance. I've seen more and more online and in social media, people going like, why does everything have to be cask strength? I'd like to try something, why does that? And I would say you can always bring it down. You can always bring it down. But if somebody comes and they go like, I'm like heavily into bottled and bond. Not in that way, just the whiskey. Calm down. But I like bottled and bond whiskeys because they're at 50% or 100 proof. And you sort of get that, you can sort of compare them
Mhm.
without playing with water or anything like that. So I like bottled and bonds. I think they're really great. And that's where this would be. I mean, this isn't a true bottled and bond, but you're bringing it to the 50%.
Yeah, it definitely, sits at that proof that you would love if you were to bottle.
Yeah, I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
You guys like that, and they seem to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you left a little?
Yes. We always follow instructions.
Liars, all of you. I know you didn't. Show me. I see empty cups all around me. All right.
So
So
let's
the second one, yeah. So we got, what's the second one?
Number two is the Murray Hill Club whiskey. So this is that brand that Joseph Magnus really was known for. Grab this one and give it a wonderful nose. This is
It's
really,
got a nice nose.
really light on the nose. I get a citrus on the nose on this. I get a touch of like blanched almond on the nose. Almost like a bit of amaretto.
103.
103 proof.
You guys gotta becoming. Listen, the only thing I'm gonna yell at you for is you not being consistent. Oh, there's the 100 proof, okay. Well, I have the other people that do that. They do one at ABV and they do the next one at proof, and it's like, I know it's not a hard, the math on this are not that hard, but it's like, decide where we're gonna be. You're either gonna do ABV or you're gonna do proof,
Right.
So good. I like this one. I don't think this one's actually appreciated enough. It's sort of funny. I think a lot of people, when you say Joseph Magnus, they not discard the Murray Hill, but I don't think they understand it, like sort of where it fits in.
Yeah.
So, and I think this one is sort of like a little bit of underappreciated because it's actually a really nice, it's actually a really good whiskey.
So this was the whiskey that Magnus himself really focused on aged with. So these are extended aged whiskeys, between 11 and 18-year-old bourbons, that 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 malted barley. But also in this is a bit of light whiskey. Who in here has heard the term light whiskey before? So wonderful MGP, light whiskey came about in the 60s, is when light whiskey really came into predominance here in the US. And it's 99% corn, 1% malted barley. And and you put a wonderful bit of age, but when you look at the distilling rules of bourbon, everybody knows at least 51% corn. Traditionally, most bourbons don't really exceed 80% corn with a bourbon mash bill. But it's distilled below 160 proof for a reason. The lower you distill, the more congeners. Light whiskey's distilled way above 160 proof, often into the 180s, 187, 188, 189. So much less on the congener profile, and goes into used barrels instead of brand new American oak barrels. And goes into that barrel at 140 proof because bourbon by law, 125 or less into the barrel. And so all of these things add up to a light whiskey that's very approachable in style. And so when you taste this whiskey at 103 proof and how smooth it is and how elegant it is, you still get those wonderful aged notes with that bourbon that's 11, 12, 18 years old.
Mhm.
And then that 9-year-old light whiskey just sits around in the background, giving you these wonderful citrus tones. I get a bit of cooked apple on this.
Light whiskey too is one of those type of things that we sort of fall into. We start talking about, of course, of like Scotch whiskey and stuff like that. And we talk about grain whiskey. All right, when we get into that, is that very unappreciated, takes aging very, very well.
Yeah.
Really shows a lot of character with some age. And like you said, I'm sure most of this is probably 10, 11 or something.
Nine on the light whiskey, roughly nine.
Roughly nine.
9 to 11 years old. on
Yeah,
light
and it
whiskey.
can be, and that's when it starts really showing its muster.
That's
It's
right.
got it in that. You get up a little bit more on age on that.
Yeah.
It shows it, even in a used barrel, it's still
Yeah, yeah.
shiny. What do you, yes,
What did you say the age range was?
what is the age range again on this?
So the bourbons are between 11, 12, and 18 years. And then the light whiskey is 9 to 11 years old, depending on the batch.
Again, just basically done to taste.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it's all about that blending, the blending aspect,
Flavor profiles.
flavor profile.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. What do you guys think of that one? I think it's
Yeah.
really good. I mean, like, again, I think it's like, everybody, I mean, we're gonna try the cigar blend last, and everybody always like gravitates to these other whiskeys, but the Murray Hill is actually, I think, is sort of understated
Yeah, Yeah.
of how good it is. Maybe underappreciated, may be the right word.
yeah. But wonderful spice, delicate citrus. I mean, really the amount of flavor that's every sip begs another.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
All right, so the next whiskey you guys gonna try, I hope you like it because you can't get it. But
Next year.
next year it's coming next year. All right, so
Next year's not that far.
so next year is not that far away. We're in November. It's a bottle right there unopened. How right you are, sir.
Gonna shut the
Who
lights off.
brought the cool kid?
Nobody.
No.
No.
All right, so what's the next one we're gonna try? Because probably most people have probably never have had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had it?
I had it for the first time today. This is hot off the press. And I'm super excited to be here and get to get my first sip of it. So this is the special reserve. Now, since 2017, they've only done 4 of them. So in the past, what would that be, 7 years? Only 4 years have they released. And that's just purely off of barrel selection. Like when barrels that meet this criteria come up, they're set aside, and then they release a limited production with this. In the finishing aspect of that, so the bourbons are up to 17 years of age. So again, Murray Hill Club, we want some of those really aged, extra aged bourbons in
Mhm.
there. And then it is paired with Calvados.
It's done in the Calvados cask.
Yep,
Now,
Yep.
is it done first and then once it's blended, put in the Calvados class?
that's right.
Calvados cask? That's a mouthful.
so-
Can't think about
And you have to think, the facilities in Holland, Michigan, right off of Lake Michigan. And so obviously a shorter summer season, stable, cooler weathers. And so 4 months almost in the Calvados cask.
Mhm.
Finishing there, you can go between 4 and 6 months, 8 months, just depending on if you start January, you might need an extra month.
Right,
If you lay down in
wood's
January,
closed a little bit.
Yeah.
This makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yep.
To pull some of those flavors out.
just that extra bit of time. Let's go ahead
100,
and get a
111
nose on
proof. Is that what you get? No. It's 111, you guys, proof on this one. Yes, Lisa, what do you want to?
So are they're buying, they're finishing in Holland and after buying it in.
Yeah, all the finishing
right.
is done in Michigan,
this. That's right.
right? But
All the blending.
all the
and
blending
finishing.
and finishing is done in Michigan.
You know what Holland is?
You know where Holland is?
I do.
Do you have your wooden
Yeah.
shoes to prove it? All right.
So
It's not that Holland, it's Holland, Michigan.
Let's talk a little bit
I
about.
don't want to hear anybody calling and saying, I don't know where it is.
Let's talk a little bit about what we're tasting on this whiskey. I mean, you have this delightful nose, right? I mean, right on the nose, you get a wonderful bit of tannin on the nose on this for sure.
In the first sips, I get like, sort of like dried apple.
Yeah, yeah,
You do get the Calvados is coming through, and Calvados is a brandy, so it isn't like overly whelmingly apple, but you're getting some like I get like dried apple on that too. And you get I get a little bit of grandma's attic Everybody get that sort of like a little bit of cedar, sort of hot
Definitely,
cedar,
really,
stuff, and
really
some
what it,
tobacco.
what hits me the most with this is this delightful astringency on the palate, this drying on the palate. I mean, it really has this wonderful leathery, it's just got that kind of black tea right on the sides, this wonderful acidity to
And,
it.
yeah, absolutely.
But then all the sweet caramel, the sweet aromatics you would expect to see in an aged whiskey like this. But then just that.
But it's a sort of I don't know how else to describe it, but a sweet tannin.
Yeah,
It's sort of a combo of sweet and
almost like a long leaf tobacco,
yeah, so it said
like
tobacco
a
on it.
chewing tobacco, a long leaf chewing tobacco.
Sticky toffee pudding from the UK.
There you go. There you go.
Sticky toffee
That
pudding
caramelized sugar,
and
right?
from the UK.
Like on the nose.
Mm.
especially.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can sort of see that. I don't think it's got enough of that. I don't think it's got enough of that sweetness, John. I think I think he's more right on, like long leaf chewing tobacco that has sort of that
Salad, for sure.
on the sweetness part.
Nose.
Yeah, yeah.
but those deep, I do get a touch of that. maple.
It's sort of like a real small set. How many people have actually chewed long leaf tobacco?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have. So I mean, like you,
Only if I had
it's very
coffee.
distinctive. No, I mean, but it is that, it's exactly that. It's that sort of, it's sweet, but not sweet. It's right on that edge of getting those sort of tannic notes to it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, really nice. And
What do you guys like this one?
Yeah.
Should ask.
again, that second and third sip, right? That second and third sip. Almost like toasted coconutty thing.
There's some definite neat flavor. This is what they call a thinking person's whiskey. You can you could sit down and explore this for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
I said it's not for me.
Not for you? Thinking person.
And like I'm about to.
I'm only gonna go by your word, sir. It's not for you because
But it-
you're not a thinker.
I'm a drinker.
If you go back.
He's a drinker, not a thinker. Yeah.
If you go back to the number two, the Murray Hill Club. You see where that light whiskey brings that elegance into play.
Now, when you go, if any of you saved any and now go back, all of a sudden a whole bunch of new flavors pop
Yeah,
on the Murray Hill, the regular Murray Hill Club.
I mean, really.
It also becomes really sweet.
Really sweet.
It becomes really sweet.
It doesn't have that astringency.
Yeah,
Right?
it pops off. That fades. There's some sugars that come forward.
Mhm.
You even get some like sort of like that brown sugar, demerara sugar flavors that go on when you go backwards. Because you took all that away with that dryness, that
Yeah,
the apple, the sweet tobacco sort of thing. You took that away.
the other side about these casks is really getting them fresh. When Nancy brings these casks over, they really have just been dumped. And if you think about as far as what absorbs into that wood on a cask like that, it's 3 gallons of that Calvados is trapped in those wood cores. And so that 4 months in there, it's really has a lot to grab from to add that influence into the whiskey.
All right, so you're all waiting with anticipation now for this one to come out.
Who here has heard about the Joseph Magnus cigar blend but never tried it?
Well, this is the last one. Never tried it?
Never tried it.
Never tried it. Now, you gotta remember, this is actually one, I would think it's almost one of the first, if not the first bourbon cigar blend sort of that came out.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of we've seen like this sort of thing in Scotch and stuff, but really for a bourbon to do this with finishing with a cigar, we haven't really seen that.
Yeah, a few things make this whiskey special. One is you have a mash bill.
You're on number 4 now, by the way.
You have a mash bill and then you have a blend bill. So the blend bill on this is 2 mash bills One is that 21 rye and 4 malted barley. The other one is 60 corn, 36 rye, 4 malted barley. Super high rye content on bourbon, 36 rye. So those are blended together. Of course, extra aged bourbons, and then finished in Armagnac,
Mhm.
cognac, and sherry cask.
Now, you're dividing them up and then doing them each barrel, or are you moving the barrel over to the next thing?
No, it's all done separate and then
Separate,
blended.
okay,
And look at that color on that.
yeah.
Just this delightful dark amber color. And by the way, you get that same color on that Mary Hill.
Oh, yeah,
Special
absolutely,
Reserve.
absolutely.
And if you look at the Mary Hill Club standard, much different.
Much different, much
Yeah.
lighter in appearance. There's a lot of flavors going on there. I love the Armagnac. Armagnac really pops on this one. How do you guys like that one?
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Not mad at it.
What's that?
Not mad at it.
You're not mad at it? That's not bad. I'll give it the New England seal of approval.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
that is that full body,
Yeah,
big, 116, almost 117 proof on that. And very long finish. That finish, especially
Yeah.
if you do a little bit of a bourbon chew, smack your lips a bit. And
that's nice.
very long finish.
That's really nice.
And at 116 proof,
Yeah,
smooth, elegant, you
Yeah.
know, on the palate, right? How the whiskey attacks the palate. And if you go back from this and dip back to that special reserve, you find that dryness all over again. And it lets you know it's there.
very nice. I like
Yeah.
that one a lot.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. All right, so we had quite a few that had never tried the Joseph Magnus lineup. Do you like it? Yeah? Now, for those of you who never had the cigar blend, do you get it? Yeah? All right. And I think it's really cool because you sort of, you know, and this is one of the type of things we, as people get into bourbon and they start talking, you know, about like cask strength and stuff like that, and they talk about, there is a machismo factor about the cask strength, right? And I don't, it's a machismo. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. It's that like I drink like higher proof whiskey,
Yeah.
but it really boils down to like, I think it's about intensity of flavor more than anything else. And this to me has that intensity of flavor. I mean, the alcohol content is just secondary.
It's a relatively new phenomenon though. I mean, we weren't talking about cask strength bourbon 10 years
No,
ago.
no,
It
no,
wasn't-
no.
It wasn't there.
No, it wasn't
And,
there.
and if you look at.
You
some-
always were like, what does the, and at the time, master blender or the master distiller think we should drink his whiskey at, or her whiskey at?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, not to talk about other brands, but Weller 12-year, wonderful whiskey, 90 proof,
Right,
you know, Blanton's, wonderful whiskey, what's Blanton's? 93?
Yeah.
You know, so these wonderful whiskeys, you know, Scotland's still wrapping their head around, you know, they're like, well, I guess the Americans.
hazmat,
Yeah.
hazmat, 140,
But,
are you guys, you know, are you guys nuts?
But Scotland's wrapping their head around like, you know, this is an insanely new phenomenon.
Right,
You know, and they're starting to put out some higher proof stuff.
right,
But 90% of the world's finest
Yeah.
scotches, right about 96. 96.
well, if you're lucky, I mean, we, over time, if we're especially in Scotch, you're down in the 80s, you know, 80, 86, 83. And then you get some, you know, some people experimenting around 100. Now
Yeah,
you have you have a single cask strength coming out, which is still not even that, you know, not usually that crazy that we would get here in the United States, but still. And I keep trying to tell people, it's like, it's so you can control it. You're not supposed to drink it that way. Try it that way. Listen, everybody can.
analysis. But the fact of the matter is it gives you the opportunity to be at the distillery and then do.
No, I agree with you on that. It's good.
Yeah.
All right, well, first of all, I'd like to thank Eddie for. I got a little bit more stuff I want to go with you, over with you. I'm gonna say goodbye to all of our friends on Facebook, by Facebook. And just remember, if you ever want to see this, you can go to the, Julio's Liquor's Facebook page, as always. But you can, wherever you get your podcast, you can go to It's the Liquor Talking, and you can find all of our stuff up there. So thank you, everybody on Facebook. You really should have been here. It was awesome. You need to come. All right, see you. Bye.